Right. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome to the second session in the Islamic Studies parallel sessions. We have our Dr. Muhammad Sadiq as our presenter today. The session is called Teacher's Effect on Student Self-Esteem. And Dr. Muhammad Sadiq has an extensive background in clinical psychology and is practicing in Canada. He has been practicing for over 40 years. He has a wide range of areas that he specializes in, including forensic psychology, psychiatric hospitals, mental health, youth institutes, community agencies, and group homes. He does a great deal of work with youth and is currently providing audio and visual counseling through internet via his website. He has been working with Muslim communities in North America and around the world on marital, individual, and family and youth counseling. He conducts seminars and workshops. For many years, he has been developing an Islamic perspective on human psychology and a model for counseling and treatment for Muslim clients using the concepts and principles of Islam. He did an earlier session that was, mashallah, beautifully done. And we invite Dr. Sadiq to begin the second session. We ask you to keep your mics and cameras off. You can type in questions in the chat throughout the session, and we will have time at the end to address those questions, inshallah. Dr. Sadiq. Is Dr. Sadiq with us? Brother Fuad? Did we lose him? He was in, give us 1 second. Let's try to find.
I think he'll be joining in just a few moments.
Okay. Okay. So there he is. Okay. Dr. Sadiq?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so I've already introduced you and given a little bit about your background, and today's this session is on teachers' effect on student self-esteem. Dr. Sadiq, please.
Ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, let me just run my PowerPoint. Okay, Bismillah. Bismillah. Just going to go here for a minute. And sorry. Where am I here? So now, inshallah, in this session, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we see the presentation.
Okay. Let me go. نحمد الله العلي العظيم ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So inshallah Aziz, we are going to talk about, like we mentioned, the teacher's effects on students' self-esteem. My objective for this session, let me talk about the topic for a very quick minute. I know that we have short amount of time to do all of these things, and these are very complicated topics, and they have so many aspects to it. But the importance of the topic is that our children we as adults, parents, are struggling with our self-identity, our self-esteem, our self-image, and living in a culture, in a country that we cannot quickly relate to, that we cannot completely become part of. That struggle of how do we feel about ourselves and how do we see ourselves is a huge struggle for not just kids, but for all Muslims living in North America. So this topic is very important. The learning objectives that I have for this topic, I'm just going to share them with you, is to, let me just go back here, where's my slide? Understand the various concepts of self and how they are interrelated. So there's all kinds of concepts related with self. What are the difference between these concepts? What promotes or demotes self-esteem? When does self-esteem begins to grow? What is the parent's role in it? Maturation of self-esteem in schools and teachers' effect on students' self-esteem, and some guidance for the schools and the boards. That is my objective. Those are my objectives. I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to do all of those things or not, but here we go. I'm going to rush as best as I can. So when we talk about self-esteem, there are a whole bunch of these concepts: self-esteem, self-worth, self-identity, self-image, self-confidence, and people use them generally interchangeably. Although the concepts are interrelated, but they mean slightly different things. That doesn't change the fact that all of these are interconnected and affect each other. So let's just look at what these different concepts are and how they're interconnected before we go forward. So if we look at self-esteem or self-worth, it is an individual's subjective, positive or negative evaluation of their own worth. It encompasses beliefs about oneself. For example, I'm dumb, I'm smart, I can't do anything right, as well as emotional states such as despair, pride, and shame that comes out of those statements that we make about ourselves. That's essentially self-esteem or self-worth. The next one is self-identity or self-concept, same thing. And that means that these concepts refer to a cognitive or descriptive components of our self. Who am I? That's the question that answers. It has many facets: gender identity, national, cultural group identities, religious identity, professional work identity, role identity, character identity. Now remember, this is different than self-esteem. What this refers to, somebody saying, oh, I'm a boy, or I'm a girl, or I'm a man, I'm a father, I'm a psychologist, I'm an Arab, I'm a Pakistani, I work in the lab, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a brave man. Those are the things that gives you your self-identity. And remember, there's not one self-identity. Like I said, all of these facets form your overall identity. So just saying I'm a Muslim is not it. I'm a Muslim, I'm a male Muslim, I'm an Arab Muslim, I'm a Pakistani Muslim, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a father. All of those part of being a Muslim. Remember that. So the confusion should not be the self-identity is just one thing. Self-identity is all those identities that combine into one. But remember, there is a ruling identity. And this concept is not talked about a lot. There is ruling identity that rules all these other identities. And one needs to figure out, what is my ruling identity? What do I identify myself with primarily? What is my identity that governs all my other identities? Again, I don't have time to go into this. I do a whole course on that topic. So, but that's a definition. Okay, let's go to the next. Self-image is the mental picture of self resulting from how we see ourselves, how others see us, and how we perceive others see us.
Dr. Sadek, could you switch your presentation to slide mode because the slides are not moving?
The slides are not moving?
No. Thank you.
Okay. How do I go about this? Let me just go back here. I'm just going to stop this. Go back here. Close this. Okay, I'm just going to restart this. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So I was showing you the definitions, and we talked about the definitions of self-esteem or self-worth, self-identity or self-concept, and self-image is where I was at. Self-image is a mental picture of self resulting from how one sees ourselves and how others see us and how we perceive others see us. And self-confidence basically is having a trust in one's own self. I know I can do it. Now, from these concepts, the most important thing is self-esteem and self-identity. If the self-esteem, if the self-value that we put on ourselves and our identity is healthy, our self-image will be healthy, and we would have lots of self-confidence. If those two parts are weak and confused, our self-image will be accordingly confused and weak, and our self-confidence will be weak as well. Okay, so going right along, understanding the concept, and now we go on to what promotes a healthy or unhealthy self-esteem. This will be true for all of us. Understanding some of the basic principles is important before we go into teacher's effects. What promotes a healthy self-esteem is positive experiences with self, our successes and failures. That's what helps us put a worth on ourselves. Do we see ourselves making it or not making it? Number two, recognition and appreciation by significant others or a lack thereof. Number three, acceptance or rejection of weaknesses and shortcomings. Whether we say or somebody says, it's okay to fail. And there are solutions to mistakes. Versus should not make mistakes, should not fail. I remember, okay, now let me not go there. Next slide, I would probably mention it. Reframing negative and self-degrading thoughts to a positive mindsets. What I mean by that? You can say to yourself, and your parents can say to yourself, you can say this to your student, you can do better next time if you keep trying. Versus, you always make the same mistakes. What's wrong with you? Providing positive feedback, reassurance with proper guidance versus criticism. These are some primary factors that promote healthy or unhealthy self-esteem. Okay, let's go into the next slide then. Where does self-esteem begins to take shape? Self-esteem begins to take shape at birth, at home. Self-esteem of a child begins to develop at a very early stage. And unfortunately, most parents are not aware that their physical and emotional behavior towards a child is affecting the child either positively or negatively. Under the stress of daily life, it is not uncommon for a parent to end up yelling at a child or handling the child in a rough manner. At a mealtime, if a child is being fussy or taking a long time to finish or ends up making some mess, tempers flare up easily. Failures and shortcomings are readily focused on, missing the successes and the efforts. And the child often ends up feeling worthless. Bad kid, can't do anything right, not worthy of love, always apologetic, wanting to please, and always seeking for approval. SubhanAllah, one time, I've been dealing with a young child who was just 4 years old. And she kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I'm saying, what are you sorry for? I don't know, I'm sorry. This is just a 4-year-old girl. Why is she so apologetic? Why she keeps saying, I'm sorry to everyone? I'm not even her parent. Because she has been made to feel wrong. You did something wrong. Say sorry. You did something wrong. Say sorry. You should not do this. Self-esteem begins to take shape at home. Unfortunately, you at a school end up with kids. You end up with kids with this preformed self-esteem, positive or negative. If the parent's expectation of the child is realistic, there's more acceptance of his or her shortcomings. Seeing the child make an effort pleases them. They acknowledge, validate, and encourage the child to keep trying. They celebrate the small successes of the child and defocus from his failures and have the child refocused on his success. They teach, guide, and model confident behavior. They don't take out their frustrations on the child and manage their stress well. And they remain patient. If a parent is like this with the child will grow up to have a good self-esteem and self-worth. He or she is motivated to learn and don't give up easily. But now, this child in your school, a school receives these kids with preformed self-esteem. And let's see how teachers affect on a student's self-esteem. Remember, when I always tell teachers when I do teacher training at the schools, teachers become surrogate parents. Teachers are with children every day, 6 to 8 hours every day, and they have to do all kinds of things besides teaching. They take all kinds of responsibilities to treat the child well, to do proper tarbiyah. It's a very heavy duty job. They affect the child's self-esteem in exactly the same way as parents do. All the last 2 slides that I showed you, a teacher can do them as well, because teachers are parents. A stressed out teacher is likely to be impatient with these students, will not be psychologically or emotionally available for the student. Teachers are human beings. A teacher's own self-esteem will trickle down onto the students. Every behavior that we learn as a child trickles down from our parents and significant others. Remember that as teachers. Your stress, your own quality of self-esteem, your own quality of self-confidence, your own self-image is going to reflect on your students. Even if a child comes to a school with a healthy self-esteem, it could easily be undone in a school by a teacher. And if a child came to school with low self-esteem, a teacher with good self-esteem and good self-confidence can easily fix it over a period of time. Have a healthy attitude about themselves and the students. If the teachers have a healthy attitude about themselves and the students, if they get to know each child's strengths and weaknesses, if they believe that each child wants to learn, if she receives reassurance from the teacher that they can learn. As teaching styles are different, learning styles are also different. SubhanAllah, those of you who are teachers, who are observant teachers, who are experienced teachers, who are dedicated teachers will know this. Every student in their class learns differently. Every teacher has a different teaching style. Most of the time, the teachers are used to that teaching style. They don't easily change it because it becomes part of their habit. Similarly, learning styles become habits. And learning styles and teaching styles both depend upon the experience, the abilities, and the limitations of the individual. Be flexible with your teaching style. As an adult, you can think and adopt and be flexible with your teaching style. Be creative. Don't expect the students to do this readily because they have their limitations cognitively, intellectually, in other ways. Ask the students what helps them learn better. You know, in this COVID situation, many schools are running online. Lots of students' grades have gone down and others got better. I'm going to share with you a couple of cases right now. Recently, a mother referred her 15-year-old daughter who has become very depressed. So I'm talking to this young lady and she says, I have lost all interest in school. I just don't seem to do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. I said, well, before this COVID thing, are you taking the classes online? She says, yeah, that's the problem, she says. That is exactly the problem. I can't sit in front of a screen and learn. I need personal interaction. It's boring for me. I have always been an A student, and I just don't even want to. I just don't even want to do this. I want to quit. Learning style is different. Another case, he was not doing, this boy was not doing it at school. Lots of social issues, lots of issues of people don't like me, this and that, I can get along. Doing very well online. Very well online. His grades are improving. He doesn't have to worry about all these other issues. Teaching styles are different. We need to know how, in what way every child learns best. I know that this is all time consuming. All of this is time consuming. And I know that teachers don't have that kind of time, and they may not have training and expertise to be able to do that. But it needs to be done. If you have behavioral issues in your class, know that behavioral issues generally reflect defensiveness. There are ways to cope with a child's own feelings of not being okay. And they create chaos. They create issues, they create distractions so that people won't find out that they are not good students, that they don't know what's being talked about, that they are not worthy. And so it becomes a defense mechanism. Because remember, I told you, believe every student would want to learn if given proper guidance and proper emotional support. Instead of punishing this bad behavior, provide ways to make the student feel okay. That's time consuming. I know it's time consuming. It has to be done though. I know that you as teachers are pressured to finish today's lesson. And this one kid is misbehaving. Somehow you have to deal with it. You don't have time to deal with it effectively, although you may feel bad about it afterwards. But understanding these things is very important. How can teachers promote healthy self-esteem? Know that the students' cognitive abilities and psychological and emotional makeup is variable, like teachers are. All teachers' cognitive abilities, psychological and emotional makeup is different. They're not all the same. Kids are not all the same. In a classroom, in a school, the teachers don't have to deal with each other's these differences. But in a classroom, you need to take into consideration the differences of cognitive abilities and psychological and emotional makeup of the students. We can't ignore it. If students with learning disabilities have been amalgamated in regular schools to normalize them, that causes even more problems. Because now you have a child with very low self-esteem and very low ability in the normal class. In Islamic school, it is a big issue because most Islamic schools don't have a specialized program for these kids. The regular classroom teacher has to teach them. I can understand how much stress it puts on the teacher. Teaching style must respect this and be able to accommodate all students. It is important to remember, each student, despite their weaknesses, has been blessed with some strengths. Find them. Observe and you will know. Point them out and make ways for them to use these set strengths to overcome their shortcomings. Involve the students in planning their education goals instead of always planning for them. Celebrate every success of every student in the class. Remember what we started with? What raises, promotes, or demotes the self-esteem? Successes. When you learn about these students, their teaching styles, their psychological makeup, their emotional makeup, their cognitive abilities, create success experience for everyone. And celebrate every success of every student in the class. Class-wide recognition and validation of success has an immediate effect on child's self-esteem than just a star system on the wall. Lots of schools I know that I visited, they would have this star chart, and the kids would get the stars, and then after so many stars, they can get something in a reward, but that's fine. But the verbal recognition and validation class-wide has a completely different effect on the kid's self-esteem. It shows its effect generally right away. Remember that, class-wide. if a child has done better, given a better response, come up with the great ideas, class-wide recognition, celebrated. It doesn't have major celebration. Just think, wow, that is great, isn't it, kids? Let's give him a hand. Just that. That has a significant impact on the child's self-esteem. Create a mutually accepting and positive attitude towards each other in the classroom. So kids know that we all are here together. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to learn the same thing. Some are not as good, some are good, but we all respect each other. That will come when you show respect for all of them. When you show kindness to all of them. Remember what I told you before? Every behavior, every good or bad behavior, every attitude that we have trickles down to people under us. If you as a teacher can be patient and have this attitude of mutual acceptance, mutual recognizing everyone, it would create that environment in the classroom. And that significantly adds to every student's positive self-esteem. Have students team up in buddy systems to help each other learn. So, make teams have a kid who is very good, a kid who is not that good. Work them as a team to not do each other's homework, but to discuss as to what did they learn and share. The kids learn from each other a lot more than they learn from teachers. I'm dealing with a young guy who is studying to take his medical exam. And he's having a hard time preparing for it. He said, you know what, Dr. Sadek, when the college was open, when the university was open, I went to study with my colleagues, with my fellow students. It was so much more helpful than even listening to the lectures. We learn from our fellow students, our friends, more quickly than we learn from the teachers. Have a buddy system. Pair them up. Pair small groups of them up. Have them study together. Have them teach each other. This also creates an accepting positive attitude in the classroom and adds to everybody's self-esteem. All of these things are doable, given time, dedication, and a sincere desire to be the best teacher that students will always remember. And there are some of those teachers, I'm sure, and I hope that each one of you had such a teacher that you can proudly say, it was an honor to know this teacher. He or she made my life so easy at this time. I would like you to be one of those teachers, each one of you. And I know you can do it. Everything that I'm suggesting is all doable. But there's one catch, which takes me to the last slide, and then I'm going to stop. Some general guidelines. The school at large, including the boards, the administration, should work together to strive this goal. The board, the administration should not just expect teachers to do it on their own and expect them to do it. They should all be part of it. It should be a school goal that we are going to be teaching our kids Islam with understanding. We are not going to just teach them traditions. We are going to raise their self-esteem together as a school. We are not going to just sit in the board meetings and in our principal's office and expect our teachers to do it on their own and then rate them on it. Don't do that. The teachers should be provided sufficient time, training, and recognition for their efforts. Teachers' successes should also be celebrated in the school by staff, the administration, and the board, because this will motivate all the teachers to do better and raise their own self-esteem and self-worth in the school. A Teacher of the Month award, for example, may be a very good way to boost the teacher's self-esteem. So until the whole school is on the same page, it may be difficult. But those are all the basic fundamental principles of raising the self-esteem. And this is where I'm just going to stop for questions now.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. If you want to type in any questions for Dr. Sadiq, he can address them at this time. Invaluable, Dr. Sadiq. Very positive comments coming in. Ms. Javeria, you have your hand raised. Mr. Sean, if you can unmute her.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullahu khairan kathira for the valuable session earlier and this one as well. I had one question, Dr. Sadiq. I teach from all the way from small classrooms to classrooms in which there are hundreds of people at one time. So what is, like, you know, like, for example, I taught, and again, I teach like from an array of age groups, all the way from first graders to adults, you know, sitting at 50 and 60 years of age. So for the little children, I wanted to understand from, let's say, if I focus myself to age group of 5 to 7 or from 5 to 10, like the elementary school children, what is the right size to have an interactive Islamic studies session? I like that you said that we need to enforce like understanding, but for like sometimes I feel we have these very short sessions and we are rushed and we are doing more damage, like having these children inside these classrooms but not having the willingness to listen back to them. And what is the right size that we need to have incorporated at these bigger institution levels, so that after that we say it's a cutoff? Like, for example, I got my Nooraniya certification in Ijaza from Saudi. So I saw that, you know, in that class, they were dividing us into 10 educators at one time, because beyond that, they cannot possibly listen to our recitation. So just like that in Islamic studies, do we have like a specific number that after this, we should not have more than that number of students inside one session or in one classroom?
The problem, sister, is here. The problem is that if you are working in a regular school, they may put these number of students and you don't have any choice. Because, for example, maybe there are not too many teachers who teach the same thing. Ideally, in a situation where you have no choice, but you have 25 students in the class. Obviously, the more the students in the class, the less the opportunity to get into a dialogue with them in a meaningful way, correct? So what do we do then? My suggestion is, don't worry about, and I'm not talking just to use a sister, but I'm talking to the whole board that maybe you're working under and the school. I would suggest that you don't worry about finishing the curriculum, that I have to teach this today and finish this because it must be tested next week or whatever. You take small bites at a time. So, for example, like I gave the example in the previous talk, let's talk about Allah today. Take something, small bites that you can discuss with them in the given time and involve them. And not worry about, I have to finish so much today. Generally, it is that worry that teachers have, that I have to finish this today because they'll be tested next week on this. That makes the quality of teaching poor and the quality of understanding poor. Now, if it was a public school thing, I understand that part. You have no choice. You have to finish these lessons. But for Islamic school curriculum, you have choice. Because no public school is requiring you to finish this. You and your school is requiring you to finish this. And you don't have to. I believe in teach them in small bites, but teach them in a way that stays with them, that becomes meaningful. Am I answering your question?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I do understand, like Jazakallah khair, this bits like bite size definitely helps. But when you have like this interactive session, giving time, just like right now, I've got this privilege to talk to you, right? So just like that, if we are looking at giving the student the privilege to talk to the educator, to talk to the teacher, then is there a standard number which is recommended by our Islamic studies community?
I don't know of any, but I know a general rule, which is the smaller the number, the better the quality of teaching. Now, how small that can be would also depend upon the abilities of the teacher and the abilities of the kids. So in my view, like people when they ask me, if I'm going to do a group work, a group therapy session or a group teaching session, what is the limit of people that I would recommend? I would say anywhere from 15 to 20. Again, I'm depending upon the ages that I'm dealing with. It may be less. So as far as I know, there's not a set number of people that experts have recommended that this will work. And that cannot be, because the student's ability to learn is variable.
Dr. Sadiq, would you mind if I chimed in a little bit here?
Sure.
I think the value of the attendees or participants or students, no matter what their age, the value in them being able to share and speak and ask questions and discuss their understanding is core to them learning. The conversation doesn't necessarily have to be with the presenter or the teacher. Like breakout sessions or working in small groups where they have the opportunity to have conversations. And with students, sometimes they learn better from each other than they do from adults. So giving them the chance to just discuss a topic. We were talking about this the other day, how our students, when we were on campus, we found our students like in the hallways talking about something they learned in Islamic studies and like having these deep conversations and asking each other questions. And that happens all the time, but you can put students in groups, even online in breakout rooms where they can discuss what they're learning. And it's just as valuable or sometimes more valuable than being able to have that conversation with the teacher. And that really does need to be an integral part of how we teach, because we shouldn't be the ones as the teachers doing the majority of the talking. They need to be talking and we need to be listening more and giving them opportunities to listen to each other.
Thank you, Leila. That was good, mashallah.
Are there any other questions? You can raise your hand and we will get you unmuted, or you can put something into the chat. This has really been very invaluable, Dr. Sadiq, whether you're a first-year teacher or whether you're experienced 10, 15, 20 plus years. Mr. Javeria is asking if there has been any research that's been done in this area.
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of it because I'm not in that field. So I'm not aware of it. The people who are in this field will probably know about this better than me.
You can read, Dr. Sadiq. We also have one from Ms. Shazi Tahir. If parents become defensive when we discuss how the dynamic of a home is affecting the student's self-esteem, how do teachers approach those parents?
That's a very difficult question. Because parents have their own issues at home. And more families are having issues at home. And we know that, and I know that being in the field. So they will become defensive. Generally, what I have suggested to schools is that Unfortunately, or fortunately, for Islamic school, there's no way out of leaving the parents outside. Which is why when I'm called to do a teacher's training workshop on a topic, for example, behavior management in the classroom, I insist that there should be a session with the parents as well on the same topic. Because if you don't take the parents along with you in this teaching and understanding of the stuff, you would always have a front to fight against. And everything that you would teach, like I told you, when a child comes to a classroom with a good or bad self-esteem, a teacher can quickly able to reverse it. The opposite is also true. When a teacher has tried very much to build a kid's self-esteem, it can be very quickly undone when he gets at home. So there's no way out than to take the parents along with it. My suggestion to school has always been, have a regular kind of when you do your parent-teacher interviews, you know, have a parent-teacher session, education session, once a month, once every couple of months. Bring them in. And you really would do a great service to the community, Muslim community at large. That would be my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Sadiq. Once again, we have 11:50. We have a little less than 10 minutes left. If there are any more questions, please put them in the chat or you can raise your hand. Dr. Sadiq, I will add to that one of the strategies you can use in middle school and above, but you can also try this in elementary grades, is that when you have your parent-teacher conferences for your, for the report cards, or at any time when you have that conference, it's vital that the student is there, that the child is there, because they are the most important person in that triangle: the school, the home, and then the student. Like Dr. Sadiq said, like Miss Layla said, allow the students to do most of the talking, because they're the ones who are there in every single class. You might be their homeroom teacher and teach 1 or 2 classes. I'm talking of middle school and above, but you're not going to teach everyone. Now, if you're in an elementary, you're going to be teaching the majority of those classes. So it's important so the students feel, this is my education. This is something my parents are sacrificing for me to get, and I need to give 110%. We have a question. How do you get your shy high schooler to speak up? They prefer to chat. So this is both on campus and now online, Doctor.
I know. This has been, people have lost even the motivation to in-person talking. They prefer to be behind the screen and chat. And for a shy student, it's heaven. They don't have to face anyone, And it's difficult to do it online. It's going to be difficult because, kids have their personalities. Once you begin the school, in-person school, then like I mentioned earlier, if you get a dialogue going between the class, like Sister Layla was pointing out as well, get the kids to interact with each other and discuss things with each other. Make the buddy systems going. These shy ones will find some courage to speak up and get going. But again, it becomes part of their personality as well. Like with us, teachers are sometimes noticed, not all teachers speak up. In the meetings, I sit back and not speak up and actively involved. And there's not much we can do except provide them the opportunity to feel okay to share.
I don't see any questions or any hands, but we'll wait a few. Oh, here's a question coming in. Having show and tell really helps with my shy students in sharing things. This is from Coach Jacobs. Thank you. Did you want to comment on that, Dr. Sadiq?
Absolutely, absolutely. If the show and tell basically gives them an opportunity to talk about something that they are impressed with, that they like, that they want to talk about, and obviously then they get attention from other kids, and it's a very good opportunity. But mind you, you have to manage the rest of the kids as to how they respond to this, because in smaller grades, if some of the kids start laughing at somebody, it can just backfire. So if the attitude in the classroom is mutual acceptance and respect, that will work great.
Mr. Awaz has a question that I teach 7th grade IE. I don't know if that's Islamic studies, and I only have 1 hour with them weekly. So what is the time you think that we should have? Maybe Awaz, if you want to share some more on that.
What is IE, by the way? I don't know. Islamic education, like maybe, hopefully.
Mr. Awaz, if you can ask to unmute, then you can share your question. Go ahead.
Yes, brother. I mean, like, what is the ideal time that I should have with my students to meet or to reach our goal as Islamic school, to keep their identity, to teach them all the things that we need to teach them before they go ahead, before they go to college, or maybe they're not even going to stay with us until high school.
Sister, if you are teaching in a regular school, and I'm not sure if you are or not, but if you're teaching a 7th grade in a regular school, then you are only allowed a block of time. Is that right? Would I be correct in assuming that?
No, I teach in Islamic school.
Even if you teach in Islamic school, you're given a block of time to teach something. Is that right?
It's only I have with them 2 sessions a week. Each session is like, one session is 35 minutes and the other session is like 30 minutes.
So now who decided that time? Who decided that time?
The school.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to. If the school has decided that's the only time you have to do this, where are you going to get more time? I know this time is not sufficient. This time is insufficient. And which is why these kinds of workshops are time consuming, because people want to know, people want to be part of, people want to discuss things and ask questions. And if you say, no, you only have 10 minutes or you only have 20 minutes, then it doesn't do the justice to the teaching part and to the students' learning motivation. It doesn't do justice to it. Is there an ideal time? Well, I would suggest there's no set ideal time for it. The ideal is when you're able to start a topic and able to finish it reasonably well, so that the students, when you say, does everybody get it? You have lots of nods. Yeah, that was the right time. But is there research done as to what is the right time and how much amount should be allotted? I don't know of any.
I'm going to, if you don't mind, with Dr. Sadiq chime in as well here. Ideally, our schools should be collaborating with, the administration should be collaborating with the teachers, with experts in making those decisions together, like designing curriculum together, designing schedule together, looking at, other programs to enhance what they learn in Islamic studies and Quran and Arabic. That should be done as a team. If that's not available to you and you're limited in what you have, I think you as a teacher then need to decide what are the most important things you need your students to leave that year with, right? We can't depend on they'll be there for the next year or the next 5 years, but what are the most important things you want them to leave your classroom with that year? And it's setting those objectives for yourself and then working towards them. It's not about how much material you cover or how many facts you teach them. It really is about the things that they internalize and they can have deep understanding of. And more isn't always better. Deeper understanding is much more important. And I think that's what Dr. Sadiq's message has been all day.
Thank you, Leila.
Alhamdulillah, we have come to the close of our session. Dr. Sadiq, Thank you very much for sharing your expertise and your experience with us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. We are now on the lunch and the prayer break. And I would also like to thank Ms. Layla for doing an outstanding job and for leading us with the Council of Islamic Schools in North America. Once again, thank you everyone for being here and being part of this event. We will reconvene at 2 p.m. Western time, and there are 3 tracks that you can go on. The curriculum and instruction track, they will have social emotional learning and motivating students with Mr. Douglas Reeves. The Arabic Quran session track will have engineering and teaching Arabic online with Basma Al-Salim. And then this Islamic studies track will have legal issues for Islamic schools with Muhammad Jafar Lakhani. He is a lawyer, and that session is from 2 to 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. So once again, thank you for all of you for being part of us. And remember, we have a second day also. So we will conclude with Surah Al-Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr, innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. We'll see you in the afternoon session.
Brother Fawad, just a quick question.
Oh, sure.
What is the YouTube channel link?
You just go on to ISNA. You can type in ISNA on YouTube and it pops right up.
Okay.
I will also send it to you privately.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fawad. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.